Hours, a Roblox game you probably found while scrolling through the millions of games available on the platform for you to play. When you join, the UI is not very intuitive, to say the least. So this guide will show you how to play the game and how the UI works and how to navigate it. When you first join, there's 5 sections, and the first one we're going to cover is the host, in which the first host is the invader. An invader is a face tank that excels in close combat and healing while dealing high damage, along with Equinox. This host is a great option to soak up tons of damage. Prophet. Prophet is a tank with high health and slow firing, high damage attacks. This host has excellent healing and damage potential. Witness is a very easy to use host with straightforward abilities. Although healing is limited, Witness is a very spammable host. Along with Artisan, Witness is a good pick for easy gameplay experience. Artisan. Artisan is a very reliable host whose healing is automatic. This character summons turrets that can melt enemies along with the Witness. This host is spammable and very spammable and has a calm gameplay loop. Vestige. Vestige is a ranged host who works best when away from enemies, while healing is RNG. This character, along with Bloxer and Buffoon, are ranged masters. Vestige is actually one of the best AI in the game. Visitor is a tank who has a shield that prevents ambushes. This host is similar to Prophet in its high damage and health, but long cooldowns and having slow mobility. Having mediocre damage but great defense, it becomes difficult to die. Subject. Subject is the most well-rounded host, but also the most difficult to use by far. This host is strong, but has a steep learning curve. This also is the best support host. This is the host made for min-maxing his damage, locked behind the hardest mode for a reason. Honestly, this host I would not recommend using for standard gameplay. Parting. Parting is similar to Subject. Great potential, high skill required. Although substantially easier to use than Subject, this host still requires time to master. Would recommend if one hasn't fully mastered Subject. Dreamer. Dreamer is a glass cannon, having low health but the highest damage output out of any host in the game. The devs added a special modifier that increases enemies' health by 1.5 times when using this host. Need Hands of Time's Game Pass to obtain. Equinox. Similar to Invader, Equinox is a face tank who heals by dealing damage and making it great for gameplay. This host is also unlocked by healing the boss, Equinox, to full health when he's using his tornado ability. Bloxer. Bloxer is a ranged host who has the ability to make a quick getaway, summon clones, and shield himself. This host is unlocked by touching every wire when the boss Builderman is on its final stage. Drifter. Drifter is a very defensive host with amazing blocking capabilities to prevent taking damage. This host also summons a legion of bodyguards to soak up any other sources of damage. This host is unlocked by beating the game without losing any base HP, not added HP. Hot Trash. Hot Rash is a host that exists. It's really powerful in blocking and attacking. This host has shields that blocks this damage and is capable of dealing high burst damage. This host is unlocked by clicking the corners of the menu screen. Helion. Helion is a glass cannon similar to Dreamer. This host is the lowest health out of all hosts, but is infinitely scaling percent-based damage and just flat-out high damage. This host is unlocked by carjacking a Fiend Rider enemy with guns. Buffoon. Buffoon is a relatively strong host who fires seeking magic bolts and can steal the abilities of enemies that appear in the game. This host is a ranged hero that needs to be built up from limited abilities. Upgrades benefit this host the most by far. And that's it. And now we're going on to the settings. Difficulties. The first row is difficulties, which is weeks, hours, minutes, which is getting balanced around, and seconds, which is the hardest. We have the game passes. If you beat the game more than 5 times and you like it, you should get it. It gives you a bunch of more opportunities. The donation you can buy if you want. Gives you the cheat menu. The chroma shift changes your color. The turbocharge lets you get all 3 upgrades, and the overclock makes your tempo stronger. And then next is the randomizer button, which randomizes your host and the tempo, and not anything else though. After that, we have the second page. Second page button changes the page from first to second. Then we have the tempos to go over. The first 4 is unlocked by beating Invader on each of the bosses. Second row is unlocked by Prophet beating the first 4 major bosses. Third is Witness beating the first 4 major bosses. Next is Artisan beating the first 4 major bosses. And then last is Vestige beating the first 4 major bosses. After that, it's unlocked by beating the final bosses Visitor, Subject, Dreamer, and Parting, respectively. Then the next 4 are unlocked by Secret Quests, which if you click them, it will give you more info on how to do it. And then Page is unlocked automatically. Cast is a version of Swap. Last 2, Sell and Tier, are unlocked by beating multiplayer and swarm mode, respectively, and are needed to access the endless timeline. Then, multiplayer mode. What multiplayer mode does is that it gives you a set of 4 random hosts, which are random each time you press it. And if you look, they're all AI. There's no players in your game. And what they do is that there's more enemies that spawn, but the hosts also just help you attack the enemies. So it's kind of balanced out. It's like a challenge, but it's also more entertaining than normal gameplay loop. And then when the boss spawns, there's going to be one special enemy AI for each AI that's on your team. But don't get too twisted, it's really easy to die this way. It's not just a free win. But if you do die, your AIs can kill the boss, but then once they die, you're screwed. Next is Swarm. Swarm, if you look, doesn't add any extra AIs on your team, and it spawns substantially more enemies that make it harder to deal with. This purely makes the game harder, but it makes the game harder, but it's more entertaining, honestly. I like the added difficulty, and it's like, if the game is too easy for you, you can just play this. When the boss spawns, no extra AI spawn with the boss. But don't get it twisted. This is possible to beat. It's not too hard. And what happens if you combine both of them? Well, a ton of AI spawn. Like a ton. And it starts off slow, but then it gets gradually harder so that each AI has an enemy to fight. And it gets really chaotic very quickly, as you can see in the footage right now. It's really easy to die, too. Don't get it twisted. And when the boss spawns, each AI spawns a corresponding enemy AI for it to fight. And it gets really tricky really fast. Also, it gets very laggy on max graphics. Anyways, Hourglass. Hourglass is a timer, and there's 2 versions, no tempo and tempo. The non-tempo version, as you notice, when stopping, both the tempo gold, which stops times when moving, the timer still goes up, because it's just a normal timer. With it being affected by tempo effects, the timer would stop. Once you play the game, you're put in a zone called Sinking Sand, which the instructions are put on screen on how to play the game. All you can do is walk off to get to the next stage, which you're presented with an upgrade choice, which there's different upgrades for each host. Going the other way gets you to endless timelines, which endless timelines is endless. You get endless abilities, and then there's AIs that spawn to fight you. And in this example, I use Swarm and multiplayer. So, Swarm and, multiplayer. But then after that, now we're on to the real campaign. So when you first start, you're either putting Peacock Peaks, Starling Stacks, or Huron Heights, in which enemies, this is supposed to be the starter zone, in which you have a choice of 1 upgrade, and with Turbo Boost, you have 3. But the upgrades are more, it's just a starting zone to get you prepared. Enemies are easier here. They're not too tough, nothing really to worry about. It's not impossible to die, but the enemies you can notice their attacks makes it easier. And then the first boss, Equinox Bomb, which being hit by his Illumina sword makes you take more damage. Being hit with his Dark Heart sword heals him 2/3 health. He would go into the sky and then make you take way more damage. It's just a debuff on you. And then when you take him to 2/3 health, he summons a tornado, which steals HP from all entities and heals it to himself, which makes it easy to die. But it's still pretty easy to beat. The stage isn't too hard. After that, you get a choice of an upgrade, and you get teleported to Downcast Days, Sinking Showers, or Forest Falls, Intermezzo, in which the enemies ramp up a little bit. You can definitely feel the difficulty spike. It gets a little harder, enemies are more confusing, and sometimes it just makes it more difficult to trail down the enemies. But it's still, you get another upgrade choice, so it's still just a stepping stone to where you're finally going to get to. It's not impossible, and it's designed to be a good zone for the players to just relax and figure out what build they want to do before they get to the final stage. when the boss spawns, he falls from the sky, blocks him in, meaning he does an explosion around him. And what he does is he launches different nail attacks at you, in which they just vary, but all of them stun you for a little bit. So, and blast you back. So make sure not to get caught into that. And then he has a little teleport ability, which he can spawn 1 or 2 clones. And with the teleport ability, he can also shield himself. But upon killing him, he goes in the center with 200 HP shield. And he gets a swarm of nail wires around him. And touching the wires will summon nails at you. Then, it's not too hard. Just like Equinox. Third stage, you get another upgrade. You go to Midnight Mirror, White Waters, or Mirai Mirror, in which the enemies are significantly tougher, deal more damage, and honestly harder to avoid, as their attacks are more miscellaneous and weird attack patterns. Honestly, more unpredictable with multiple abilities. But this is when your builds are fully developed, as you don't get another upgrade choice in the final stage. So by this point, you will know what you have. You have everything you have to beat the game laid out for you. This is how you play. And the difficulty is only going up from here with the boss Ronin Alpha spawning. He has a mega size form, which you have to fight. I'm just kidding, you have to fight a little guy over here. And what you have to do is he just attacks you with swords, and he has a blocking ability, which is very good to block attacks that are too quick in succession, as you might see in some of these footages. And then, when you deal too much damage to him, his bodyguard, the big guy in the back, will slam down the ground and summon minions to attack you. So it's about dealing damage sooner versus later. But once again, this stage isn't too hard, as you have your full build set out for you, and everything is already laid out for you to successfully beat this. After that, leads you to Light Beneath Closed Eyes, which before Mirai Mirror gets fully dark after a little bit, in which you get teleported to the final stage, which you get no upgrades, and this is all unedited footage right here. A beam of light will spawn through the ground, and you're in the first stage of Light Beneath Closed Eyes, where he does multiple attacks, such as summoning light balls from all the edges of the map to the center, which the easiest way is to go into the sided mirror, where I'm at, so you don't get injured. And then after that, he will summon streaks of light to summon slash you, and make sure you can avoid them, but they still do a crap ton of damage. And it's really good chipping. Next, just go into a corner and you just sweep to the center of the room. After that, just walk from just keep walking, or you can spin in circles. Because there's 2 beams that go in circles, and it's honestly pretty confusing at your first time playing. After that, it will summon beams of light just all around, and then about 0.5 seconds later, a lightning strike will spawn, and you have to make sure to avoid it at all costs. And then it'll summon 8 pillars and then a piano to strike down. The piano will kill you, so do not get hit by it. And then it goes to the first stage, which is a mirror match on what builds you're using. Exact builds and everything. The only thing different is that you have your tempo, which is the key way to win this. So, whatever tempo you choose is the most important decision of your run. Because if you have a bad tempo, like Paige, you're pretty much screwed. For example, this Paige just kills you instantly. And this you have to play very carefully, maybe even waiting for your tempo to fully get off cooldown. And this is all possible with the original build you started off with, which is Invader and Halt, non-overclocked and non-turbo boost. And what you can do is just play smarter than how you played. The AI analyzes the playstyle you've been doing from the past 3 levels. So you have to make sure you have gaps in your playstyle that you can leave for weaknesses that only you know. After killing him, leads to the final stage, which is Resonant Mine, similar to Dreamer, and it just attacks with this onslaught of beams, which is heavy damage, and it's just relentless. And he dodges most, if not all, attacks from your character. Only attack I know of that he doesn't dodge is the visitor of the beam. But he just does an onslaught of high damage attacks, running around. Make sure you avoid him. Stuns are great, but not every host has a stun. And he will stun you a lot. So make sure you stay away from him unless you're ready to strike with your tempo, is my advice. After all, the loop isn't too hard. It's designed that it can be beaten on the first playthrough with everything. You can beat this with any host and any tempo. It's just a matter of how you play. Play correctly, and this will be quick and easy. As this run only took 12 minutes, that was on screen. And upon defeating Resident Mind, you will stay in the same spot, and you have to walk and touch a pink platform. But I won't spoil, because it is the most beautiful thing I've seen when I play the game. Anyways, thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you found this helpful. My first video, and I would really like the support. Thanks. Bye.